Did you know that a dairy cow won't produce milk until she gives birth first? Did you know that the world would have 40% less corn without the use of fertilizers? Do you know where your food comes from? In the world of agriculture, many processes can be misunderstood by the general public. It is very easy to find false information online as to how everyone's food is produced. Because the world is now so urbanized, many people simply do not realize where their food comes from. We have developed so much that people in the city simply don't have to know. However, relying on the internet to answer questions about agriculture might leave folks with some wrong conclusions about farmers and ranchers. With a closer look into some specific processes in the ag world, the consumers can be more educated as to where their food comes from and how it's produced. Some things often misunderstood are the fertilization of crops, how beef cows are raised, and where veal comes from. The main proponent in everyone's diet is what comes out of a field. Crops such as soybeans, corn, and wheat all need special care and treatment to be grown for human consumption. Not everyone knows how these crops need care. As the world population skyrockets, someone has to feed all the new hungry mouths. Ecology.com says that for every 1,000 people in the world, 19 are born. For every 1,000 people in the population, 8 will die. Basically, for every one person that dies, 2 people are born. This means that the people that produce their food need to develop more efficient and cost-effective ways to produce food with the resources that they have. There are only so many resources on this planet and only so much farmland to produce crops. Farmers must grow as many crops as possible with the land that they have to work with. For crop farmers, fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides are ways that this can be achieved. Merriam-Webster defines fertilizer as a substance such as manure or special chemical that is added to the soil to help the growth of plants. Pesticides are chemicals that destroy insects or other harmful organisms that may harm the crop. And herbicides are chemicals essentially used to destroy weeds that may harm the plant. It is truly that simple. Some hear big words and misunderstand them for some really harmful chemicals. All they are meant for is to protect the plant. The combination of these 3 technologies makes a field produce much more. This is called yield. When a field's yield is higher, that means less land will have to be used to grow these crops. Less water will be needed to irrigate it, less fuel will be used to plant more, and less resources as a whole will need to be wasted. The fact mentioned earlier holds true. Cornfields would produce 40% less corn without the use of a fertilizer. In excess, these chemicals, along with any other man-made chemical, can be harmful to the environment. However, through careful observations and education, farmers have learned the delicate balance of protecting their yield and protecting the environment. Farmers are not looking to destroy the environment that they live in. Many are very educated on how to preserve the soil, wildlife, and land, and are very passionate about it. After all, they must use the same field again in following years, and contaminating the soil and water would not benefit them in any way. Many people believe that animal manure will rebuild soil and fertilize fields. Manure is the feces that comes from animals. Though it does offer some benefits to crops, manure is nothing more than what that animal ate. For example, if the manure comes from a cow, it's going to be nothing more than stripped down grass with the nutrients already digested. Also, the leaching from manure is twice as bad as using a simple nitrogen fertilizer. Nothing else can compare to a chemical fertilizer in order to get the highest yield possible. It still proves to be the most efficient and effective way to utilize the resources at hand. Another amazing thing about producing so much food in the field is that it can be used to produce more food in the form of animals. The main part of crops, and even their byproducts, can be used to produce meat animals such as pigs and cows, animals commonly enjoyed in the United States. One type of meat produced with corn is beef. In one 6-ounce steak, one will consume around 50 grams of protein and only around 400 calories, according to Healthy Eating. The average adult needs 50 grams of protein to meet his or her nutritional requirements every day. In order to get as much protein in a serving of chicken, one would have to eat about 1.5 servings and 440 calories. One would have to eat 100 servings of lettuce and 500 calories to get as much protein. These facts come from the Interactive Nutrition Facts found on Google. Meat in all forms is an incredibly efficient way of gaining the protein that humans need to survive. There is a huge industry for providing the meat that the world demands, and producers must find ways to bring a hungry world the food that they desire. Much the same as farmers producing crops, farmers producing meat only have limited resources. Naturally, they want to bring as much food as possible using as few resources as they can. As an example, most people know that the bigger an animal is, the more muscle it has, and the more meat can be harvested and eaten from it. Over the years, farmers have found ways to breed for the best traits and produce larger amounts of meat. They have developed selective breeding programs to grow the best possible animal with the best traits, much the same as a purebred dog owner would breed their dog to a complementary mate. Some misunderstand selective breeding and its purpose in agriculture, such as Dr. Neil Bernard, president and founder of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. In a popular debate titled, "Don't Eat Anything with a Face," he argues that chickens are bred to be huge and obese. What the doctor doesn't think about is that if meat-producing animals are bred to be bigger, then fewer of them need to be raised and slaughtered. To be more specific, beef cows have been developed incredibly over the last 100 years. From an article by John H. Knox, a professor of animal science at New Mexico State University, growth rate is a heritable trait. It can be improved by selection. Cattle growth is beef production. It's a simple logic. Through specific breeding, cows have gotten bigger. Their increase in size and muscle has reduced the need to raise more animals. The specific breeding has allowed cattle to grow on the specialized feed that they may be put on. Before steers can be butchered, they have to be finished. Being finished means that they have reached optimum weight for slaughter. And most don't realize that this takes a really long time to do while a steer is grazing in the pasture. It also takes an incredible amount of grassland to completely grow a steer on grass. According to BeefUSA.org, it will often cost more to raise cattle on pasture because it takes longer for the animal to reach market weight. This is why many are finished in feedlots. By sending beef steers to feedlots to be finished, they grow very quickly and are ready to sell within a few months instead of a few years. This way, the consumer can enjoy a delicious ribeye steak in no time at all. Cattle are very diverse animals in the terms of meat that can be harvested from them, and each breed has their own good traits. A certain type of meat comes from an industry that might surprise you. A large majority of people are not aware of how veal is produced or where it comes from. It actually is a byproduct of the dairy industry. Veal is the meat from a baby calf and a delicacy in some countries and often used in cuisines. Dairy cows are the stereotypical black and white milk cows that everyone thinks about. Dairy cows in the United States provide us with products like milk, cheese, ice cream, and yogurt. An article by Purdue University says that one dairy cow will produce 350,000 glasses of milk in her lifetime. Though technologies in today's world are incredible, scientists have not been able to reproduce the lactation cycle a cow goes through after she gives birth to a calf. In other words, dairy cows must have a calf in order to produce milk. Cows are mammals, and the calves must drink their mother's milk, similar to humans. However, calves can contaminate their mother's udders with diseases and undesirables. Jones disease is just one example of an untreatable bacterial infection of the udder, according to a brochure by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The cow can get it if her calf has a disease in its mouth in some way and drinks its mother's milk. It would make her milk unsafe if the calf brought a disease to the udders, so the calves are weaned at birth. The female calves are very valuable to the dairy industry and are used to produce milk when they are grown. The male calves, however, cannot produce milk. They are a byproduct. Instead of letting this resource go to waste, the industry races them for veal. They are fed a special diet of milk replacer, according to an article in Farming Magazine. Milk replacer is very similar to baby formula that humans feed to baby humans. Just the same as a human baby can survive on baby formula, calves do well on a similar version specialized for them. Veal is a very tender and nutritious meat and provides an outlet for unusable calves that are born. Many would agree that using as much of an animal as possible instead of letting it go to waste is much more honorable to its life than the other way around. A quick look on websites like PETA.org shows that it's easy to be misinformed about this part of agriculture. They claim the dairy industry to be cruel when it's really nothing of the sort. Farmers in this industry, and all industries, take the best possible care of the animals and land that they can. It is their livelihood. With just a little research and some trustworthy sources, one can find that those in agriculture have developed their processes over a long period of time, and they work. It doesn't take much to understand farmers. Their passion for producing the world's food is second to none, and they take pride in the products that people eat from coast to coast and country to country. Big cities can often be a very long way from the source of their food, but through education, the distance may not be so great. Consumer and producer go hand in hand. Now, some might better understand the processes of growing crops in the field, how beef is produced, and where veal comes from. Such simple processes of agriculture can be misunderstood. These processes are what makes the world's food. Everyone needs food to survive, and now some may better know where their food is produced.